Good evening, United in Recovery. My name is Brooke, and I am a child of God, and my story includes alcoholism, codependency, workaholism, childhood trauma, and breast cancer survivor. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. Tonight, we continue in our conversation about back to the basics. As we return to school, we return to steps 1, 2, and 3, as they are foundational about what we believe about who we are, who God is, and the role God plays in our lives. Last week, Will talked about step 1, about humility and powerlessness. This week, we focus on step 2. We came to believe in a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. The step has 3 parts. Came to believe, power greater than myself, and restore me to sanity. But first, at the foundation of step 2 is step 1. I have to believe that I'm powerless. I can't stop my own drinking. I can't stop my own using. I can't stop my loved ones. I can't get rid of my fears and resentments out of who I am. I'm powerless and my life is unmanageable. And power is from God, not from us. Paul wrote to the Corinthians in 2 Corinthians 4:7, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us." That's at our core of the steps. And gratefully, there's just not one step, because if I was just powerless, but I'm powerless and God is all powerful, my power does not come from me, but it comes from God. The treasure is who we are, our stories, and that it's in jars of clay, as Paul notes. Jars of clay are fragile, incapable out of themselves to protect. And that is like we need God. We are jars of clay needing God. The chapter 4 of the big book being the primary source of the 12 steps, the chapter is called We Agnostics. I didn't think I needed to read it because I wasn't agnostic. I was raised in the church. I believe in God. Yet this chapter is so rich for each and every one of us in understanding who God is and the God that we come to believe in to restore us to sanity. On page 45 of the big book is a quote that says, "Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it has to be a power greater than ourselves. But where and how were we to find this power?" It says the main object of the book, of the 12 steps, is to enable us to find a power greater than ourselves, which will solve our problem. One of the biggest things that my own experience and other experiences I have heard is the barriers we have to God. It's the yeah buts. Yeah, but God abandoned me. Yeah, but I'm not worthy. God knows everything I've done and said. I've researched and I know all about God, and I just don't believe. So how could a God let something happen to me or my friends? Why didn't he stop my addiction or my loved ones? What about all my doubts and my old ideas about who God is? Have you talked to someone recently about these doubts, these fears, these resentments connected to God? Because that is a barrier to step 2, and it's normal, and it happens, and it's a process. Step 2 question that we find in the big book says, do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? Am I willing to get honest about my old ideas about God, my doubts, my fears, and resentments connected to God? As Paul says, being able to get honest allows us to live into the truth about this treasure we have. And that it's jars of clay to show that it's not me, it's not us, it's God. We are powerless. God is all powerful. And we are going to turn our lives and our will over to that, as we will learn next week in step 3. In groups tonight, or with a sponsor or accountability partner, share your experience with your barriers to God, whether it's been in the past or it's now, the ones we keep to ourselves that we're afraid to be honest about. And talk about it, that the step says willingness. It talks about willingness to believe and a power greater than ourselves. No matter where you are, may we hear the good news that God meets us where we are, in the midst of our barriers and despite of our barriers, with step 2. Take care, and may you know you are loved by a mighty God.